This is gonna be cold as shit, but fuck it. I just got back from the gym. My apartment has almost no insulation, and I have a you can't see it, but I have a big ass window right there. I was running my space heater, not that one, but the other one, because I have a second one. I was running my space heater on full blast to try to prepare, because most all of my hoodies have my university on it. I'm like, shit. So it's like, all right, well, let's not out ourselves. I'll tell you that I live in Pennsylvania now. That's where I live. That's where I'm studying law, at least. In case any of you wanted to know. So, anyway, yeah, Pennsylvania's defamation laws are actually very plaintiff friendly, I've found. But that's a different, that only matters to a few people. Anyway, no, so I figured, I was like, okay, well, I've got this second channel. I uploaded one video to it. Like, why not do something with it? And then I was like, okay, well, the podcast and the memes and the shit posts, they kind of like, the community posts help, but the rest of it kind of drags down my content in the algorithm. So I was like, oh, screw it. We'll rename it from like Amiibo Doctor Tournaments to Amiibo Doctor Extra or whatever name I end up coming up with. And then that's where we'll put the podcast, we'll put the memes and the shit posts and all that. Oh, my eyes are so dry right now. I have been so the camera that your eyeballs are in is sitting on top of my monitor, right? Which is good because it's slightly above eye level. And I have been looking at basically this angle for a week and a half. Literally a week and a half. Because I put out Steve, and I put out I had already done Pyramithra before going home to be with family. So like probably 2 weeks ago now that was done. And I'm honestly not as proud of Pyramithra Guide as I am of Steve. And Min is kind of in there somewhere. But I think the Steve Amiibo Guide is probably, not to pat myself on the back, because I don't think I replicated it very well with Min or with Pithra. But I think the Steve Amiibo Guide might be the best, at least in terms of like, sorry, it's my roommate, in terms of editing and production value, like the best piece of Amiibo training content like ever. Which is kind of scary because it's not really what I set out to do, and like shit, you know. But like, and I see things differently as the creator of it and as the person who knows like what the YouTube algorithm prefers versus just a viewer. But it got everything right, and I did it on accident, and then I couldn't do it again with Min. So I was like, crap. But it really did, which is super annoying because it got like 1,200 views in the first week, but like now it's got really low retention because YouTube was like, we'll show this to anybody under the sun, and then so that was kind of annoying. But I am really proud of that video. I don't know if I'll ever be able to do that again, honestly, because I did it. It was basically a 3-day binge. I had trained the Steve Amiibo before because I had done previous Steve videos, but like. Sorry, there is a structure to this. I wasn't planning on talking about videos. I am going to get to 3 things that all Amiibo trainers need to know. Because, you know, there's some things that you could try to explain in like a 5-minute video, but it's really better to explain long form. And one of the cool things about being Amiibo Doctor is that, you know, I've been doing Amiibo for fucking like 7 years now. And like... I have an education in, wow, from that angle it makes my arms look small. How about that angle? I have an education in statistics. And if you don't know statistics and you're doing Amiibo, you're missing out on half the fun. You really are. You do not understand the Amiibo meta if you can't apply statistics to it. Like just not even actual data, but just an understanding of it, you know? And unfortunately, most people who claim to know the Amiibo meta don't have a damn clue. So that's why I'm here. That's why they call the Amiibo Doctor, Dr. Blast Resort. No, it's it's a hell of a thing, having a video like that. That was that good. I don't even want to take credit for it because like I don't remember half of it. I really don't. I think so basically what happened. So what I said previously that like 1 minute of heavily edited stuff is like an hour. It's actually more like 2 hours to make the final product, not including training time. So with Min Min, I finished Min Min this morning. I spent 35 hours doing Min Min. To be fair, I got like halfway through and then somebody was like, well, what if you train her with smash attacks? I was like, shit, I didn't even think about that. And so I had to go back, train a fourth one, modify the script, re-record the audio, re-edit the audio to cut out a lot of the airspace, and then put it back into the thing, and then and so I was like, fuck. But those are the links I go to make sure that I have, the best info, and that I'm presenting it well. Because like, you can be Albert freaking Einstein, but if you don't know how to tell it to somebody, you're useless, chief. And one of the hard parts, one of the problems with Amiibo training is that nobody knows how to teach. I think it's really just one of the problems that we have as a society in general, is that we just don't know how to teach people things. We really don't. We know how to make people teach themselves, but we don't know how to teach people things. So, anyway. But yeah, so Steve, that did well. And then the Amiibo Power Creep video, 500 hits in 24 hours. Actually, it's 520 something, but like, what the hell? I chalk it up to the thumbnail, personally. I don't think that was necessarily like a wonderful video, especially. I think the second half of that video was not that good. I knew where I was when I was writing the script. I knew where I was going with the first half, and then when I got to the second half, it was like, what do I actually want to say here? And I actually had an incomplete project in the video editor on that video, and I was ready to export, and then I watched it, and originally I was a lot more pointed about it. I was like, okay, these tier lists are bullshit, and you need to not pay so much heed. And I was like, well, it's not really what I want to say. And that's not what I want to say, because that's not what I think, right? I'm not a status quo person. I don't take social considerations into account when I say things. I tell you what I think, and that's always kind of put me at odds with the hypersensitive people on the internet, especially the ones in the Amiibo scene who think I'm a jerk. That's their problem. It's kind of like, all right, whatever. Would you rather somebody tell you what makes you feel better or tell you the truth? It's like, well, you feeling better is temporary, but the truth is permanent, and it's going to suck either way, so tell them the fucking truth, But that's a maturity thing. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, right. No, the second half of that video wasn't that good, especially editing-wise. I kind of got lost. I was like, how do I edit this in? Like, I don't know. So, life news, still in winter break, so that's awesome. But I actually just got this in the mail. Doc, what is that? That looks like an iPad. Ha, no, fuck Apple. Fuck Google, too, but also fuck Apple. No, this is a second Nintendo Switch. I don't plan on doing tournaments with that, because I'm not going to have time to... If I have time to run an Amiibo tournament after school starts back up, then I have time to do something for law school or make a video. You know what I'm saying? So, no, my original Nintendo Switch that I've had since I got it for Smash, what has it been? 3 years now? I think? Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I got it in 2018, so it's been about 3 and almost a half-ish years. Yep, yeah, that's right. Because I was smart when I bought that. I bought it 3 months before Smash came out because I knew that Switches would sell out as soon as Smash came out, and I wouldn't be able to get mine on release day, so I bought it 3 months ahead of time. That's actually how I'm living my life now. I'm thinking ahead. I'm like, okay, what's everything I'm going to need in the next 6 months? And I'm just buying it now because I'm expecting huge inflation. Probably 8% year over year inflation to be coming soon. Let's go, Brandon. No, second half of that video probably wasn't that good, truthfully. But like 50% of people stuck around all the way until the very last second, which I thought was, I mean, I've never had a video that was like that. It was truly impressive, honestly. And I didn't like, I don't know where I got good at editing. I really don't. Like, I just fucking, well, cause like, okay, so I quit in July, right? Cause there was that very defamatory, media, I guess I would say post, but it was really a series of coordinated media attacks. I mean, it kind of told everybody, it was like, oh yeah, the Amiibo scene is actually run by these dweebs and they don't like him. And so anyway, but no, so all that shit happened. Pennsylvania, same jurisdiction. If you know, you know. If you don't, think about it. But no, so I quit, right? And then I come back in October, but I hadn't really like edited anything. I had done the Steve Amiibo's Evil video, and that was garbage. I really thought about taking it down, but the thumbnail is just so damn good. But like, it was just garbage. So I really don't know where the hell I got good at editing. I just like, I took finals, and then I came home, and I started working on the Pithra video, because I got the bin files, and I trained it, and then I trained it again, then I trained it again. I think I trained 3 of them. Although, incidentally, I trained all Pyras. I didn't train any Mithras. It was all Pyra, because I figured Pyra is going to be the meta option. So, I don't know. Rukasu told me that there was an AI difference between Pyra and Mithra, which I don't believe, but, you know, we'll see. So maybe that'll be something for part 2. Anyway, no, so I trained it, and I just, you know, I filmed it, and I was like, oh, I've got an idea. How about we put match footage in the background and blur it and Vision edit so it looks kind of good, right? And then how about we have this, and how about we have that? And then just like, I mean, it was really like, I just sat down and was a rock star in all sense. That was really weird. But to be fair, I've been using the same editing tool for over a year now, so I guess I have to get good at it at some point. So anyway, okay. Three things. This is going to be given lecture style, so you get to learn how I learn. 3 things that every single Amiibo trainer, doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter whether you're raid boss or not, needs to know. Okay? The first one is the difference between optimal and best. I often use the word best when describing an Amiibo, right? That's kind of how the marketing goes. Oh, I have the strongest Amiibo. I have the best Amiibo. I have the blankest Amiibo, right? That's not really how it works technically. And I've been trying to catch myself on this in recent days, but I've not been doing a very good job. So you've got optimal and you've got best, right? Best implies that that's final. That is, there's a hierarchy of standard, hierarchy of value. That sucker's at the top. There's no other option that would work better according to those value, right? Optimal, not quite. Optimal is more realistic. So with optimal, okay, it says given the obstacles that you're going to face, or that this Amiibo is going to face, which are other opponents, this is the most likely to succeed option. Okay, so this is the option that's the most likely to succeed. That's what optimal is, right? Best wins. Optimal, most likely to win. Here's the problem, okay? Amiibo behavior is random, all right? You can influence the RNG, and there are like such ridiculous corner cases of Amiibo AI that you can edit it so that it's very reliable and predictable. But realistically, if you're not training it with a hex editor, then it's effectively RNG. Okay. The fact that it's RNG means that, well, okay, let me. You have the fact that it's RNG, so you can't determine what it's going to do. You can only make it more likely that it'll do certain things, right? In addition, you can't determine the opponents that it's going to face. All right. It's not like there are tournaments that say, oh, well, every single match is me Gunner versus King K. Rool. It's not a thing. All right. Doesn't exist. So if you're entering, say, a Mario amiibo, your Mario amiibo could fight Cloud or it could fight Ness. Those are two very different fighters. Your Mario amiibo needs to be prepared for both of them. The optimal Amiibo training method is the path, or is I take it back. This isn't how I learned, because lectures are usually better prepared than this. It's basically the option with the most advantages and the least trade-off disadvantages, right? So like, let's say for a second, we'll take Ridley, right? So out of coincidence, for those of you who don't know, so Ridley can use Fireball at the ledge to gimp opponents, right? Out of coincidence, the trajectory of Fireball at the ledge always perfectly gimps Ness every single time. Ridley is a Ness counter, basically. Because Ness can't recover when Ridley is using Fireball. Well, you have Fireball Ridley, or you have Down Smash Ridley. Okay, Fireball at the ledge Ridley, or Down Smash at the ledge Ridley. So if you're training Ridley, okay, I don't know where he is on the current tier list, amiibodoctor.com/tier list. We'll just say he's A+ tier, because that's where he's been for most of the meta, and I'm just going to assume he's A+ tier, right? If you're Ridley, if you're training a Ridley, and you're like, okay, people are probably going to be submitting A and A+ tiers. Would I rather have Down Smash at the ledge, which has more KO power overall, or would I rather have Fireball at the ledge, which specifically murders every Ness that I come across? Well, what's the optimal way, right? So optimal, in other words, is given the current conditions that I am most likely to face, what is the path that makes me the most likely to win, right? That's the difference between optimal and best. So when I say the optimal training method, that could change with an AI patch, or somebody could find a more optimal training method, or maybe some other amiibo gets patched, or a tournament rule set changes, or a move gets changed, or maybe just trends in what people send in changes, and then suddenly optimal becomes different. Maybe, so I found, I was the guy that proved that Snake is a Ness counter. There was, I think it was like a 16-man double elimination tournament with like, at the time, a little bit of Amiibo history for you. There were a bunch of people who were bitching about Ness is broken, wham, wham, wham. Like, yeah, fuck you. I mean that politely. I actually do mean that politely. Insofar as fuck you can be polite. But no, they were complaining about Ness. And so in order to try and rig the ban system, rig public opinion and rig the tier list, they tried to submit Ness to everything to make him win more, right? It's a real dick move. It's a very shitty thing to do. Don't be that guy. All right? It's very unsportsmanlike. Anyway, I submitted my Snake. Jocko was his name. If you know that reference, you know what I'm talking about, why I named him Jocko. Jocko spammed grenades, which was considered unoptimal at the time. Just goes to show you what experts know. He beat, I forget how many Nesses there were in the tournament, but 3 of his 4 opponents in the tournament were Nesses, and he beat all of them. Yeah. And these were like the most well-known and most achieved Nesses in Amiibo history. Yeah. And I don't really chalk that up to my Snake Amiibo training. I chalk it up to the fact that Grenade Spam Snake, is a Ness counter. Right. So it throws up in the air the question of, well, what's optimal? Because if there's a lot of Nesses, all right, maybe training Ridley to use Fireball, maybe training Snake to use Grenade is optimal. If there's not a lot of Nesses, if most of your opponents are sword fighters, maybe something else is optimal, right? So that's sort of the question of, like, that's the question. That's optimal versus best. So when somebody says I have the best, they're not an Amiibo Doctor fan. I don't know why I made a fart noise. They're not an Amiibo Doctor fan. Send them this video because they don't understand optimal versus best. You feel me? So I need some water. Okay, so I can either have the space heater on, or space heater on and you can't hear me, or I wear this and you can't admire this. So I'm just gonna stick with that. Okay, so the second one is like how to know if your Amiibo is good. That's a tricky one. Let me put it to you this way. Let's say you just started playing Smash and you are convinced that you are the best Smash player out there, right? This is a thing in the Smash community. I don't know why, nobody really talks about it, but like there's always the guy, people have sort of an ego. They're like, well, I'm really good at Smash. I'm the best. Because they can think back to like one time when they were 10 and they joined like this tournament at the rec center and they had their, sideways Wii remote. They're like, I won. I must be the best at Smash. And they're seeing like Mewtwo King. He's, breaking his fingers on a GameCube controller and winning $1,000. And he's like, oh, I could beat that guy, right? People think that they're the best at Smash, okay? You don't know how good you are at Smash until you go to a tournament. You may win in online play. Doesn't mean shit. Got to go to a tournament and compete, right? Same thing with Amiibo. I hear all the time, people tell me, well, my Amiibo beats me, so it must be pretty good. I'm like, okay, first of all, you're probably not that good at Smash. Second of all, I've literally produced videos on how to beat every Amiibo, so just watch those, get good, LMAO. But more importantly, it's like, well, you are not an Amiibo. Like, if it's a raid boss, that's a different story, right? But we're not talking about raid bosses, we're talking about competitive, right? So it's like, okay, you're not an Amiibo. You do things that Amiibo don't do. You can't do things that Amiibo can do, right? Why are you comparing that? That's not the same thing. In fact, they're wildly... The more deeply you understand Amiibo AI, the more ridiculous it is, And so the fact that... See, here's the thing. Let me put it. Every vanilla Amiibo that I have, I can beat easily. I pick Captain Falcon. I know all the AI tricks that Captain Falcon has, and then I just beat them. All of them. It's easy. Except for the Ryu Amiibo. I guess he got an AI patch at some point. Well, no, I beat him too. I beat him with Marth. The thing is, if your Amiibo beats you, that doesn't mean it's bad. If you beat your Amiibo, that doesn't... If your Amiibo beats you, that doesn't mean it's good. If you beat your Amiibo, that doesn't mean it's bad, right? Only way to tell is to send it to a tournament, okay? But there's a second layer to that, okay? Because it's not just... Let's say you have Kirby, right? Again, I don't remember where Kirby is on the tier list. Probably B+, because that's kind of where he's always been. Ever since Bright Eyes. That guy never did come back. Like, he literally just showed up, trained a Kirby, it kicked everyone's ass, even though no other Kirbys had done that before, and then he just fucking left, never came back. His Kirby's name was Bright Eyes, by the way. I have an old meme. It was really funny. Clockwork was the trainer. It was Clockwork. And so there's a song, Bonnie Tyler's Total Eclipse of the Heart. And the line in it is, turn around, bright eyes, right? So I took just that segment from the song and I titled it, When Clockwork's Kirby is Facing the Wrong Way. I think I took it down because I did a purge of some of my really trash videos, but in my meme videos and stuff, because nobody was watching them. I checked all of them to make sure they weren't getting any views. So don't tell me you missed them because you didn't see them. Anyway, not the point. So say it's Kirby, okay? And you're convinced because your Kirby can down air to down smash you. He's just fucking best, right? The problem is Amiibo AI and its routines and all that crap, that's set in stone, all right? When you're training an Amiibo, you're not teaching some grandiose artificial intelligence thing how to play Smash and all that. You're just teaching it move probabilities and some play style info. That's it. As a result, it ends up looking like a normal distribution. This is where that statistics information comes into handy. That's why I got my education in statistics. This is so I could train Amiibo better. Most Amiibo of a certain character are going to be relatively close to average. Like we're saying relative to each other, okay? Most of them are going to be pretty much average, all right? They're not going to be like superstars. They're not going to be terrible because the AI is still the controlling factor here. And, you know, given a random shake, unless the AI has a serious flaw, right? Like a Ganondorf up tilt flaw, okay? Given a random shake with training AI, it's probably just going to shake out to be roughly average, right? Within one standard deviation of the mean. So the question is not, do you have a good Kirby Amiibo? The question is, do you have a good Kirby Amiibo relative to the other Kirby Amiibo? Okay? You cannot... What did I say to somebody? I told somebody that even at his absolute worst, Bowser was B tier. Like, even if you just did a down air spam Bowser, it's still Bowser. It's still like B tier at absolute worst, right? At some point, you cannot make an Amiibo worse, you cannot make an Amiibo better. So the only way to measure that is relative, that's me drawing the normal distribution, relative to the other Kirby's, okay? A little bit hard to measure that, since there's not thousands of people doing Amiibo training, and you can't just toss it in and be like, oh, look, I had my Kirby fight 100 other randomly selected Amiibo, right? Amiibots is close to that. If you don't know what that is, it's amiibots.com, amiibots.com. It's a Twitch stream, it's a 24/7 Amiibo battle thing. Even Amiibots has its own issues, not necessarily representative of a tournament bracket, you know. But so theoretically, though, okay, pretty close to the mean generally, just because of how AI works and all that jazz. But that's the real question. Is not, oh, my Amiibo got beat, or my Amiibo beats me, it must be pretty damn good. It's actually, oh, I went to several different tournaments and my Amiibo got these results. Is this good or bad, right? And it's a different thing, you know? That requires some familiarity with the character's typical placement. That requires some familiarity with counters, you know, bracket luck, things like that. That is really how to know if your Amiibo is good or not. Sometimes, yeah, after a while, you kind of get just an idea of it just by watching it fight. You know, fight other Amiibo opponents. Is like, oh, this one will be good, or oh, this one won't be good. You know, but even then, the behavior is random, right? It is. It's RNG. So there'll always be fluctuations in that. And on a broader scale, that's why you can't get emotionally attached to like tournament wins and losses and stuff. You know, this is why I tell people, like, if you win with a low tier, fuck yeah, man. If you lose with a high tier, it's bad RNG. Really, that's what it is. This isn't like regular Smash where some characters are just better than others. You know, this is Amiibo where, okay, the Amiibo is just better, but there's also randomness. So So I ordered this throat lozenge pack from Mexico. They're called cherry eucalyptus. So a couple years ago when I was in my undergrad, which was not in Pennsylvania, I went to the student health center. Right when I first developed my throat condition, they gave me cherry eucalyptus, and it was like amazingly effective. So I go to Amazon, I try to buy them, and they only sell them from Mexico now. And there's like one listing. I'm like, shit. So, it's the first cherry eucalyptus I've had in years. Very helpful, very effective. Anyway, okay, so third thing you got to know, the 1 in 100. All right. Here's the thing. Spirits, different story because there's loadouts. All right, I'm talking about vanilla amiibo here. Okay, when both amiibo are on equal footing as far as stats and spirits go, which means nothing, because if you give Armor Knight to two different amiibo, it'll still benefit one more than it benefits the other. That's because of how spirits interact with characters. Incineroar benefits a lot more from Armor Knight than Sheik, because Incineroar is so much heavier, so the weight multiplier is larger, right? Anyway, so vanilla, though. The 1 in 100. I said previously, amiibo behavior is RNG, functionally random, right? There is a non-zero chance in every single match that you could lose, or that you could win, okay? This is not true when there's AI flaws that prevent that. The only one that comes to mind is Incineroar's Alolan Whip, because that, Amiibo not seeing that means that they can't win because they can't fight, right? And so that's an exception. We're putting that off the table as Incineroar Alolan Whip spam. Besides that, okay, besides AI issues, when both Amiibo are functioning normally, there is a non-0% chance that you could win or lose, right? It's never 100 to 0%, okay? So what this means is, that's what that means. What this means is that, okay, maybe it was just one match. Maybe it was just one match. Seriously. Like, there is a series of controller inputs that could arise out of these amiibo that could cause that one to win or that one to win, right? I mean, nothing is set in stone, It's sort of like in Brawl, okay? Ganondorf was the worst, if I remember correctly. Meta Knight, obviously the best, right? Meta Knight had like a, what do they call it? Like a +4 advantage on Ganondorf or something like that. It was like 4 plus signs was the icon that they used to represent his advantage over Ganon. But they didn't say it was 100 to 0. Because you could end up with a Meta Knight being controlled by like an 8-year-old, and then, Mewtwo King or whoever controlling Ganondorf, right? And M2K is probably going to win that still, because he's M2K, LOL M2K, right? You could always theoretically have trained such a dumb, we'll say Bowser, that, a Bayonetta could beat it. That's in theory, that's always possible, right? And maybe you trained a good one, but maybe the RNG just comes out where it's totally dumb for that match, and the Bayonetta is just at the top of her game, right? I've tried illustrating this with graphs, and like, it's impossible to illustrate this unless you know stats, and if you know stats, then you don't need this video. But like that means that, okay, you took a game off this, great, that's cool. Maybe even took a whole set, awesome. A set is a little bit more authoritative because that's 2 out of 3, right? But does that keep happening? Because it's one thing for that to happen, it's another thing for it to be a trend, right? So there's the 1 in the 100. What this means, though, is that, like, the way this ties in to the relative to the other amiibo thing is really weird because let's go back to my previous example of Bowser being at worst a B tier, right? Well, what does Bayonetta at her best look like? I mean, that's a rhetorical question. We don't really know. But let's say, hypothetically, Bayonetta at her best is like a C, just in theory. All right? Well, guess what? You have a C tier versus a B tier. Best Bayonetta, worst Bowser, right? Oh, gee, oh my. Do C tiers beat B tiers? Yeah, of course they do. That happens. Like a lot. Well, so then still Bayonetta versus Bowser. Well, since you trained a really dumb Bowser and a really smart Bayonetta, what if Bayonetta can do? She can do the. I forget the. It's been so long since I trained Bayonetta, and I only actually just learned the character today. Like literally, I shit you not. I went 5 years without learning how to play Bayonetta. That was intentional. And then today I was like, fuck it, let's find out. I'm not kidding. Let's say Bayonetta can do the ladder combo, or just whatever her longest variation of that is, right? Or let's not even that. We'll just say that we can do whatever the version of the ladder combo that the Amiibo AI is currently capable of right now, right? Which I think is like a couple of hits, right? Well, Bowser's a heavyweight. Well, he's going to get his ass kicked. I mean, realistically, going to have a hard time getting KO'd. Fair enough, because their smash attacks aren't that great. They're big and they're kind of long startup time. They have some KO power, but they're outshined by a lot of other stuff, right? But it's also a stupid Bowser. So let's say Bayonetta doing her flip kick and she, does the side B into the kick and into the up B and into the side B and into the side B and into the up air and then whatever else comes next. I think that's what the Amiibo AI is capable of, right? Bowser gets hit by that a couple times, ends up losing the match. Okay? C tier just beat a B tier. C tier didn't beat the B tier. Again, this is the worst Bowser, best Bayonetta. Somebody is vacuuming. It's midnight and somebody is vacuuming. You probably can't hear that without headphones, but good lord. But the character matchup also comes into play. And so does the stage. In the Bayonetta versus Bowser example, the stage doesn't really come into play much. Although you could make the argument it's easier for Bayonetta to start the ladder combo when it's like Omega stages instead of Battlefield, because then Bowser always has to come down and then he's vulnerable to side B. Fair enough, right? But like there's so many other variables at play, okay, that they could combine to create a situation in which you win or lose. So one match doesn't matter. Think about the bigger picture. Think about the other variables, not just the RNG, but also the stage, the character matchups, right? Is this character good against that character's archetype? Does their AI have stuff that's good against that character's archetype? That's a big deal. That actually is a big deal. People don't think about that often enough. They prefer to think about just characters like as a whole instead of breaking them down into their subcomponents, right? If you're not thinking about your Amiibo and subcomponents, if you're not learning about Amiibo and subcomponents, then you're not learning about Amiibo. I mean, realistically, because there's so much more to it. Looking at the Amiibo tier list, why do you think heavyweights are at the top of the tier list? Why do you think I mean, in human play, it's kind of all over the place, right? But in Amiibo, heavyweight's at the top of the tier list. Very set in stone. Why? Well, okay, so the Amiibo AI, it can KO easier. It doesn't get KO'd as easy. Okay, fair enough. But there's Amiibo that can combo. Shouldn't they be comboing the hell out of the heavyweights? Limitation to the AI. It's not, they're not at the top. Their archetype isn't at the top because it's the best. It's because it has the fewest other archetypes dragging it down. That's how to think about this. Okay? So you take we'll say Pyra and Mithra. Pyra's a swordy, Mithra's a combo character. Pyra's got the KO power and the weight. It's not much weight. She's like 98, I think is her weight, if I remember correctly. And Mithra's got like 92. So she's basically Sheik, but she has damage, right? So like you take a character like that with multiple archetypes, it's like, well, Pyra would be up at the top. I mean, tremendous vertical recovery, ridiculous KO power, right? But Mithra would be much lower, probably C to C plus, if I remember what I said in the video correctly. So, like, you know, you get some interesting situations with archetypes like that. And that's when it comes down to just actually seeing the battle, right? But if you're not thinking in terms of the archetypes, as far as character matchup goes, no, you're not. And see, that's the thing. I don't mean to go on a tangent here, but there's a deeper level of analysis to Amiibo that nobody does. Nobody does. You know, they feel smart at this level of analysis, and that's all that they go to. But there's so much more like extra to it. This is why stages matter. Rule sets matter, right? The option to counterpick, hypothetically, would be a massive deal in Amiibo. I mean, I just popped my shoulder. It would be a big deal, right? The shit actually matters, you know? I have never, ever found... Wow, he's just going to town at it at midnight. Because he probably doesn't have any roommates. Actually, wait. No, I think my upstairs neighbors are girls. I'll have to check into that. Tell them to shut up because it's midnight. I'm trying to sleep. Anyway, no, I've never found any other Amiibo education that gets into stuff like this. At all. There's no documentation of it anywhere. There's just none. But if you want to get into the rabbit hole of Amiibo, here I am. I'm at the bottom of the rabbit hole, boys and girls. I have thought about this shit for 7 years. I have written economics papers on it. I have applied statistics to it. I've thought about statistical, like, literally, get this. I think I took out a few of these videos. But I literally tried to mathematically model out the Amiibo meta as best as I understood it. It's called the utility formula. If you're a longtime fan, that should sound a little bit familiar. Probably not, because nobody watched those videos. Like, the shit's dope, man. It's really dope. Like, it's really, truly dope. Nobody can match my passion for it. You know? Nobody can... nobody can match my passion for it. I really do think Amiibo is something... I don't mean to be a culture critic, okay? But most people come to Amiibo out of insecurity. I came to Amiibo out of insecurity. I know many of the people I've talked to about this say the same thing once they get self-aware. But like once you get past that, you just start getting interested as fuck in Amiibo because it's interesting as fuck. Then, I mean, it really like so. But yeah, this is something you could study forever if you really wanted to. I should know. I've been studying this forever. I mean, I really have. Like I taught myself Amiibo and Smash 4. That's basically what happened. And then I came to Ultimate, and when Ultimate came out, yeah, I probably thought about this way too much, but that's the good shit, man. That's the good shit. So those are 3 things that every trainer knows or needs to know. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to I know it's the second channel, but you want to see it when it comes out. So, all right, folks, that's all.